So we already saw, we started by sort of building toolkits that will help us sort of put together and actually come up with a protocol. We saw secret sharing in the last class. Remind you again that that's one thing we already saw. We need one more thing, which is Oblivious transfer. So just remind you, secret sharing would give you a secure multi-party protocol even for computing the sum of numbers. So addition is what sort of secret sharing kind of enables natively. But we couldn't quite do add. That I actually claimed to you that there's a theorem that says that unless you have cryptographic assumptions, you cannot have a no two-party protocol can compute the AND of my bit and your bit securely without either revealing my bit to you or some information about my bit to you or your bit to me. So there are no secure information theoretically secure protocols. This is why we need a sort of cryptographic primitive that is Oblivious transfer. Okay, so let's see let's recall what Oblivious transfer is. I'll tell you what the security definition is, which is basically inspired by the security definition of two-party computation. Because again, whatever I'm going to come up with is a particular security party computation primitive, and then we'll actually go ahead and construct it and use it and so on and so forth. Right? So, all right. So let's recall what Oblivious transfer was, and that was the following primitive. Right? So it's a primitive. It's a protocol whereby I can walk into a room with two bits in my hand. Right? You walk in with a bit, which sort of specifies which of the two bits, the 0 bit or the 1 bit, which one do you want, right? So that's in your mind. And we do stuff at the end of which you should get the bit you wanted, 1 or 2, and I shouldn't know what you got. Yeah, that's the highlight. Okay? So formally, the sender has 2 bits, B0 and B1. Really, these don't have to be bits, they could be numbers and so on and so forth, but at this point, we'll just kind of focus on the simple set. With 2 bits, the receiver has a choice bit C, and at the end of the protocol, the sender gets nothing, absolutely nothing, and the receiver gets B sub C, which is either B0 or B1, depending on what C was. Right? So forget all these things, this is what it gets. Yeah, so that's this is the mathematical formulation of what I just said. Make sense? Good. So now I want to do a little bit of manipulation, algebraic manipulation to sort of write this B sub C in a nice way, in a sort of an algebraically nice way, and that is this, right? So this is the way you would write a multiplexer, something that chooses between 2 options. Right? If C is 1, then this is 1, and 1 plus C is 0. 1 XOR C is 0. So this expression will output B1. Right? If C is 0, this will be 0, but 1 XOR C is 1, and it will output B0. So this is the algebraic expression for a choice between 2 bits. Okay, and then I did one more sort of step of manipulation. So C times B1, and this is 1 times B0 plus C times B0. Again, C times B0, I took it here, and I just kind of wrote it down in a nice, clean format. That's all I did. Yeah. All this is to kind of get to the point to convince you that if I can do Oblivious transfer, then I automatically get a protocol to securely compute the AND of 2 bits. That was the whole point of doing this algebraic manipulation in the first place. So let's try to do that. Transfer. Good. Yeah. So what do I want? Let me. There are again 2 parties. Let me just call them sender and receiver. Although in the AND, the 2 parties are symmetric, right? So there's no. But let me just call them P1 and P2. P1 has a bit B, and P2 has a bit C. So again, B and C are bits. And they want to compute the AND of the two bits. Yeah, that's the goal. I want to use Oblivious transfer to get to this goal. So how would I do it? I mean, so far we haven't really kind of specified the security properties of Oblivious transfer, the security definition of Oblivious transfer. But roughly speaking, you say, well, the sender gets the output and no more about the receiver's input choice bit, which is basically nothing. He gets nothing. The receiver gets one of the two bits. Well, that's what the functionality says he should get. But he does not get any information about the other. So that's what the, roughly speaking, informally, the security properties of this. First, I want to use this to get AND. Yeah, that's it. So how would you do it? Let's try. I've set up the stage for you. Now you need to kind of pattern match. So I want to call Oblivious transfer, right? I want to sort of, run a sub-protocol where one of these parties acts as the sender and the other party acts as the receiver in the Oblivious transfer. So let me sort of write it down this way. Some more space. Okay, so this is the OT functionality where this guy acts as the sender and this person acts as the receiver, and they need to feed something in and run the OT protocol, but I'm going to abstract it away as a box, okay, where people can feed in things and get the output. And they should be able to kind of, so what's their goal? I mean, they should be able to take these outputs and from this kind of divine the AND of the BNC. That's what. The question is, what is it? How do I use this box? Let me tell you, you need to use this box only once. Okay, so as simple as possible. Good. All right, let's wake up.
Set a random Vinod.
Good. So this is what we said, but can you think of something even simpler? I want something even simpler. Okay. In fact, I would say P1 and P2 do not use any additional randomness. Let's say it's an artificial constraint, but this is just to make your solution accept. So this guy gets nothing. We know no matter what they feed in, the sender gets nothing. What could be simpler than choosing a random bit?
Set B1 plus B1 to B2.
Correct. Okay. So obviously this is what you want to do, yes? So you have to somehow set B1, so let me just write it here, B1 plus B0 to be B, yeah? So but this guy has B, he somehow chooses B1 and B0 so that their sum is B, right? This guy chooses C, C is C, okay? There's nothing more you can do about it. So C. So C, good. But you know what? How do you pick B0 and B1? Again, I'm not going to allow you to use randomness. Of course, if you use randomness, your solution is correct. But what would you do? And remember, at the end, what the receiver gets is B times C XOR B0. Yes, that's quite an annoying. Why XOR B0? Yes.
Can you not just set B0, B0?
Beautiful.
B1 equals B.
Beautiful. Yeah. Okay. So I'm not talking about anything complicated. Yes. Yes. Exactly. Yeah. So B0 is 0, and B1 is. You feed it in. What he gets is, in fact, you do the math. You get B times C. That's what the. That's it. End of story. Right. Yeah, and if the party 1 also wants the answer, he says party 2, please send it to me. Party 2 will send it to me. Okay, because we're talking about semi-honest parties. Okay? That's it. That's it. The thing is, we want something more than second, because I don't want to stop at AND, right? I don't want to stop at XOR and AND. That would be a pretty sad world. I want to use these building blocks to put them together to get sort of a secure protocol for large functions, complicated functions. Right? Right? So one way to do that would be the following. Would say, well, look, if I have a protocol for, you write down a big function as XORs and ANDs. In fact, yeah, any Boolean function can be written as a combination of XORs and ANDs in a way that we'll describe in a minute. But you say, well, here's the way we compute. Okay, so the first gate is somehow an XOR gate. Okay, fine, we'll compute it. How do we compute it? What's the secure protocol for AND? Like we saw.
Yeah, just use this.
For AND, yes, use this. For XOR, one party sends the bit to the other party, and that is actually a secure protocol for XOR, standalone, right? So I run the secure protocol for XOR. Okay, so you get that. And then I use the secure protocol for AND, and both of us get the answer. And then keep going, right? I mean, that's one way to do things. But that wouldn't be a particularly good way to do things. Okay, so let me say what my proposal is, and then we can shoot it down. Okay, so again, P1 and P2 in general have X and Y. Okay, so this is what I have. And there is a function F that everyone knows, and both of them want to compute F of X, Y. Want X, Y, maybe both of them, doesn't matter. Okay, this is what they do. How do they do it? I say, look, let me write down this beautiful circuit. Okay, so what is a circuit? It has inputs X, which is many bits, X1, X2, etc. up to Xn, and Y1, Y2, etc. up to Y. Okay, so these are many bits. So the function takes these bits as input and computes. How does it compute? It takes, at any point in time, it takes 2 bits, computes a small function to it, let's say XOR, right? It takes the output of this and computes another function on top of this. Let's say AND. Okay. And keep on going this way, right? At the end, you get 1 bit, and that's done. Okay, so my proposal to compute this function is the following. I say, look, let's start from the bottom. Yeah, that's always you start computing from the bottom. Look at the first gate. That's an XOR gate. It's an XOR between Xn minus 1 and Y1. Okay, so how do we compute the XOR? Let's run a secure protocol for XOR. Okay, run it. Yeah, so one of the parties gets the answer, let's say, or both the parties get the answer. Then we say, okay, that's great. So both of us know the output of this gate. And now let's run the next gate. What is the next gate? It takes as input this one that we just computed, and Y2, and run a secure AND protocol. Then both of us get the output. Keep going until the very end. Okay. That's my proposal. Yeah, are you happy with this proposal? No. Why? Yes, no. How many people are happy with this proposal and they can go home? It's half the lecture. Okay. Yes, no, yes. How many people were yes? I'm gonna get like undecided. Okay, how many people were no? Oh, okay. The rest of you are undecided. Okay. So why is this not a, of course, if you say no, I'm gonna ask you why. Why not? Yes.
It leaks a ton of information.
Yes, it leaks everything nearly, right? I mean, it leaks all the results of all the intermediate wires, all the intermediate results of the computation. So that's a lot, okay? So that you don't want to leak. The whole point of secure protocol is to keep everything in the middle hidden and only reveal the 1 bit at the end to the party. So this guy, the secure AND protocol, doesn't seem to be good enough to, as a building block, to sort of construct other things. Yeah? And that's why we'll, this is sort of like, when you do induction, right? I mean, your inductive hypothesis is not as, not the same as the theorem that you want to prove at the end. You typically have a stronger inductive hypothesis because you want to use it as a tool to build other things. So this is like the weak inductive hypothesis. Here is the right one, I claim. Right one because I'll use it later. Secure shared is what I'll build. And here the point is, well, again, the same as before. P1 has a bit B, P2 has a bit C. And at the end, so this is the input, the output, or what they want, is 2 bits, D0 and D1, such that 1, either D0 or D1 by itself is random. 2, D0 XOR D1 equals B and C. So to say, it's a slightly stronger, it's a primitive. When you run it, it doesn't tell either party the AND of the 2 bits, right? Instead, it gives them an additive secret sharing, a 2 out of 2 additive secret sharing of the AND of 2 bits. That's what this is. So at the end of this protocol, neither party is any wiser. You know, get D0, supposedly random, what am I supposed to do? But I know that the other party got a D1 whose XOR is correlated to is in fact the AND of the 2 bits. And then I can possibly continue. Okay, so this is what I want. So let's kind of build this, this primitive, and then we'll use it to do secure computation. Okay, so this is what I want. So again, what is the protocol? It's very, very, very simple, very similar to what we do here. And now I'll let you answer. All right. So P1 picks random B0, B1 such that the XOR of B0 and B1 equals B, right? And you feed B0 and B1 to the OT box. OT box, again, you run the OT protocol basically, where the sender, this guy acts as a sender with input B0 and B1. And this person acts as the receiver with choice bit C. At the end, what do they get? Well, this person gets nothing, and P2 gets B sub C, which is B0 XOR B1, BC, which is, by our calculation, C times B XOR B0, yes? C times is B1 XOR B0, which is B XOR B0. That's what this person gets. So what does this person output? This person outputs B sub C, and P1 outputs B sub C, and P0 outputs B0. Let me leave it up here. Okay. Does this make sense? So I'm going to use exactly the same protocol, except my 2 choice bits are not sort of 0 and the bit that I want, but a random secret sharing of the bit, of my bit B. That's what this is. Yeah. B0 and B1 are a random secret sharing, a random 2 bits whose sum happens to be. Then this guy feeds in C, and OT tells you that this person gets B sub C, which our calculation, the thing in the box, says it's C times B, XORed with B0. In other words, nothing. Okay, so because B0 is a and this person gets nothing as a result of the OT, but they have to output something at the end of the. They have to both output a bit. Yeah. So B0 is B0. This guy always outputs the same thing. B0 always. Okay. He got nothing. What is he supposed to do? And this person outputs B1 equals B sub C. What do you get? It has invariant that if you sum these 2 things, you get B times C. Yeah. And why are they random subject to this condition? Because B0, if you look at the marginal distribution of B0, right, it is random. By definition, it is random. Yeah. And the other guy, once you fix the marginal distribution and the answer, there's only one choice for the other guy, and that is, the answer XOR with big zero. That's precisely what happens. Okay. So that's shared hand. Sounds weird why you would even do such a thing, right? But we'll see. We'll see. Okay. Any questions? Want to stare at it? Yeah. Good. Okay. Good. Okay, that's fine. You guys have a higher vantage point than me, so hopefully. Okay, so most of you, yeah. All right, so I want to use this guy to do secure computation. The kind of thing that I started to do, right? I will do it. I promise I'll do it. But let's take care of a couple of other things first. The first one is, how do I construct OT? Does it exist? Okay, it's very nice that it's a box, but I don't have a box. Instead, that box has to be replaced by a protocol. What does that mean? A protocol where this party feeds in an input, this party feeds in an input, they interact, at the end they get the answer. I don't want boxes, I want a protocol. What is a protocol? We haven't shown what an OT protocol is. Turns out OT can be constructed from nearly all the assumptions that, Diffie-Hellman, RSA, learning with errors, so on and so forth. Essentially all assumptions imply OT protocol. Let me just show you one. Okay. This is OT from decision of okay, again, we have sender, 2 bits, receiver, choice JC. They want to run this protocol. I am going to use the L19 encryption scheme. Remember, I'll write it down in a minute. That's what I'm going to use. Here's the idea. The receiver picks 2 public keys, PK0, work together with the receiver picks 2 public keys, okay, in a way that it knows the secret key for exactly one of these 2 public keys. Okay, what does that mean? So remember, what is the public key in L19? It is of the form G and G to the X, where G is a generator of a group of order, prime order, so on and so forth. And X happens to be the secret key. And then they can encrypt and decrypt it. So how do I pick a public key with the secret key? Well, that's what it is. I pick a generator, I pick an X, and then I set the second component of the public key to be G to the X. That's how I pick both together. But I can also pick a public key without knowing the secret key. Yes. How do I do it? I pick 2 random numbers. I pick a generator first, then I pick a random element in the group, in ZP star. That's it. Yes. Or random quadratic residue in ZP star, depending on what you use. Random element in the group. Okay? So this is a way to pick a public key without knowing the secret key. You might ask, why in the world would I want to do that? Well, that's the protocol. That's what the protocol demands that the receiver does. And because the receiver is semi-honest, he will do precisely what the protocol demands of him. Yes? So that's what he did. So he picks public key C together with secret key C. Right? And you pick public key 1 minus C without knowing the secret key sub 1 minus C. In other words, obliviously. So this is key gen here. Pick G, yeah. Pick X. Compute G to the X. And the public key is G to the X. And the secret key is X. That's what the real key generation algorithm does. But there's also an oblivious key generation algorithm, which does what? It picks G. It picks what is Y? Y at random. Okay, that's the oblivious key generation algorithm. And the public key is G and Y. That's it. If I pick this way, I have no idea what a secret key is. Yes? That's what I'll do. So this you do by running key gen. This you pick by running obliv key gen. And now you send across pk0 and pk1. Not pkc and pk1 minus c. That would be a mistake, right? You send the 0 key and the 1 key. The order doesn't depend on what c was. Yeah? That's what. Roughly speaking, the sender looks at pk0 and pk1 and he says, well, let me try to guess what C was. Which one of these keys were picked with the secret key, public keys were picked with the secret key, and which one wasn't? The claim is that there is no way these two distributions are identical, these two distributions of public key are identical. He has no idea what C was. Okay? So that's that. And what does the sender do? Let me ask you to fill the blanks. What could he possibly do? I mean, there are two public keys, yes, and yeah.
Just encrypts them. Well, encrypts B0 and B1 by the respective public keys.
Public keys. Okay. Yes, two public keys, 2 bits. Okay, the same thing to do is the right thing to do in this case. Okay. And he also sends yes. And what does the receiver do? The receiver says, look, I know the secret key for one of these two. Let me decrypt it and I get B sub C. Well, so we call this CT0 for cycle X0, CT1 for cycle X1, CTC using SKC. And that's it. Yeah, that's the OT protocol. That's it. Okay. So now again, questions. There is one question that is the elephant in the room that someone should ask. Are we all going to be confused? Yes.
What's the definition for security?
Ah, okay, very good. Okay, why are you asking this? Do you have an attack in mind?
Well, like, there are two different definitions that I can think of. One is to, like, just have the view of the receiver and
yes.
try to tell between the worlds when, like, the other value of B is 1 and the other value of B is 0.
Correct.
And the other one is to just get what the receiver already the value and simulate the whole view process.
Simulate the whole view, yes, that's right. That's right. And these two definitions, the first definition you're talking about is called an indistinguishability definition, as you would guess. And the second definition is the simulation definition. So in general, for multi-party computation, these two definitions are not equivalent. But for OT, they happen to be. So in fact, we will show that, you can always show that simulation implies indistinguishability, sort of a trivial thing. I mean, like in encryption, right? So we'll show the simulation definition. But for OT, they happen to be the same. For functions with with constant input length, they happen to be the same. But when the input length is larger, the stuff happens to, things don't work the same. Simulation still implies indistinguishability, but not yet. So in any case, we'll show, it doesn't matter for this, we'll show the stronger one. Good, so that's a sophisticated complaint. The thing that I don't know should catch you is, what if the receiver picks both public keys together with secret keys? Yes, the sender is not going to know either way. I mean, that's sort of the security property. Yes, I mean, my answer is twofold. Okay. Answer one: that attack is outside the model, because I'm talking about semi-honest. I'm talking about adversaries that follow the description of the protocol word by word. Okay. If you ask it to generate randomness, it generates randomness. If you ask it to do x plus y plus z, it says x plus y plus z. Okay. So that's a kind of a cop-out answer. The real answer is that in 3 lectures, we will show a generic way to compile any semi-honest protocol, any protocol that's secure against semi-honest adversaries like this, into a protocol that's secure against arbitrarily malicious adversaries. It won't be the same protocol, clearly. But there's a compiler, there's a general compiler. You feed in, throw in into the mix, this protocol into the mix, out comes another protocol that will be secure against malicious adversaries. Okay? But hold on for that for a few lectures. Okay, semi-honest. That's all we want with this one. And that's still non-trivial, yes? Because the protocol here's the protocol, okay, so if you think this is trivial, here's the protocol. The receiver sends C to the sender, and the sender chooses the right bit and sends it back to the receiver. That's not secure against any definition, any adversary, even a semi-honest one. Why? Because the view of the sender will contain C. It should not. Okay, so it's non-trivial, it's highly non-trivial to design protocols even against semi-honest adversaries. Okay, so all right, so let's prove the security of this. But before that, let's recall the definition of security. Okay. So this is just going to be, recall the definition of security for two-party computation applied to it. That's normally what it is, but I want to write it down explicitly anyway. So the definition says, for every one, it says, for every, okay, first of all, there is a simulator, PPT simulator, S sub sender. Sim subsender, such that for every B0, B1, and C, right, there's a sender which does it has to work for every possible sequence of inputs B0, B1, and C. The output of the simulator, given nothing, security parameter, if you want, but nothing, no information about B0, B1, and C, should be indistinguishable from the view of the sender in the protocol with B0, B1, and C. The view of the sender, meaning the sender's inputs, the sender's randomness, somehow, and the messages that the sender receives from the receiver, which is just one message. Yeah, this is what I want. 2, the same story. I mean, why sender is also the receiver. There should be a simulator for the receiver, such that, again, for every input, the simulator should output the same thing as the view of the receiver on B0, B1, and C. But what does the simulator get here? So you see, what is the point of this definition? It says, look, on the right hand, there is information, all the information that the party sees. In one, it is what the sender sees, which is defined to be his input, coins, messages. Okay, that's what this object is, which I'm not explicitly writing it down, but that's what it is. Same thing with the bottom. On the left-hand side, I want to say this whole view can be simulated given only the answer of the computation. Okay. What is supposed to be the answer of the computation when it comes to the sender? Nothing. OT is supposed to give nothing to the sender. Therefore, the simulator gets nothing. In other words, security parameter, just because he wants runtime polynomial security parameter, the same trope, right? How about the receiver? Right? I want to say the protocol reveals to the receiver nothing more than what the output reveals. What is the output? B sub C. Yes? So the simulator gets B sub C, and you know what? For good measure, the security parameter. Why? Because he wants to again run the time security parameter, same story. And then he simulates. So then he simulates.
Can we rewind for 1 second to the protocol?
Yeah.
Like why this reveals B sub C?
Why this reveals B sub C?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So the protocol, the receiver chooses two public keys, right?
Yeah.
One of these public keys he chooses together with the secret key, and the other one he picks obliviously. Which one he chooses with the secret key? The seed public key is the one he chooses with the secret key. Sends the two public keys across. Right? This guy, he encrypts one bit with one public key, the other bit with the other public key. So the receiver gets two ciphertexts back. He knows the secret key for precisely one of these two ciphertexts, one of these two public keys, right? And he decrypts it. He says, "I output it." What does he output? He outputs the seed bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's the same as that definition.
So this is correctness, right? This is what we just said is correctness, and this is security.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm looking at that word because I'm looking at what's under it.
Yeah.
No, erased.
Ah. Oh.
B sub C.
Sure. Yes. That's what.
Okay.
Yes, that's what.
The seed bit of B. Okay.
Seed bit. Yeah. Seed bit because he knows the secret key.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are both parties honest? Consider maliciousness?
No, not at this point. Not at this point. I know you're itching for to an attack, but no. So all these parties do, right? What do these parties do if they're semi-honest? Are they? I mean, I used to call them honest and stupid. Okay, is what I used to call them, but that's not really the case. You know, they look at this. These are parties that conform to the protocol. I install a software in your machine. You say, go run OT. Okay? You won't modify the software. I don't know. You don't modify the software. Okay? I don't modify the software. You run it. But you can observe the traffic in the channel, right? You can observe the inputs you feed into this software. You can observe the randomness you feed into this software. That probably tells you stuff. Yeah? That's what I do. And later I would say, look, there's a generic way. I'll give you a preview now that you asked me. Okay, so I'll use zero-knowledge proofs together with this thing called coin tossing. Do you remember? I mean, like, this was, in the beginnings of the class, we showed a way for Alice and Bob to flip a coin together, right? We'll use that to ensure that these parties use the right randomness, the randomness that adds into use. And then I will say, well, look, randomness, okay, I took care of it, okay? Zero-knowledge proofs are used to make sure that every step of the protocol you do the right thing. If not, you'll get caught. Okay? This is the high-level picture, but it's details, lots of details. It's an entire lecture. Okay? So at this point, I'll tie your hands and say, synonyms. Okay, so that's the security definition. Yes, both of you.
Is there a reason the simulator can't depend on, say, S's inputs in the first case and C in the second case?
Oh.
Yeah.
I was wondering why the view.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
Seemed
Very
very
good.
strong.
Very. And unachievable. So, okay, so, very good, very good, very good. You got it. You got me. The simulator should get the inputs of the sender and the output, which is nothing. And here, the simulator indeed should get the input of the sender and the output. Yes, indeed. Very good, very good. Yeah, too good. Okay, so this is what we want to. This is what we want. Okay, so like in all of these protocols, there are two steps to this proof. One is if I want to show this protocol secure, the burden is on me to construct a simulator because it says I claim to you that there exists a simulator. You come back and ask me where is the simulator, and I have to construct it for you. So that's it. And then I have to show you that what the output distribution of the simulator is indistinguishable from the view. These are the two things I need to show. Two distinct things I need to show you. Okay, so let's show them one by one. So let's do the sender simulator first, because that's the easier one. Sender simulator. So now let's see, what is the sender simulator doing? I mean, it has to produce the view, right? So again, view sub S is the inputs of S, yeah? The randomness of S, which I didn't quite write. What is the randomness of S? What is it using the randomness for? Conflicts in the encryption, because I didn't write it down, but this encryption is probabilistic, semantically secure probabilistic. So let me write it down explicitly. Okay? This means coins are L0, coins are L1. L0 and L1. So this is the inputs, this is the coins, randomness. And the messages, right? That's PK0 and PK1. That's it. Yes? That's that. You can also say CT0 and CT1, but you can compute it as a function of these guys. So forget. Yeah? It's not important. You could say CT0 and CT1 if you wanted. That would be superfluous. Anything that can be computed as a function of randomness, input, and messages. That's what it is. I'm going to sort of ignore it. So this is what the simulator is supposed to generate, yeah? And he gets what? B0 and B1. I'm going to ignore the 1 to the k. Doesn't matter. Yeah, so the question is, what does the guy do? What does the guy do? Good. Not much, yes. I mean, because what he has B0 and B1, okay? He needs to generate PK0 and PK1 somehow. And how does he generate it? He picks randomly. He picks two public keys, either oblivious or not oblivious. It doesn't really matter, right? And then he picks coins, and that's it. Okay, so the simulator generates PK0 and PK1 by running keygen, or if you want, obliv keygen. Doesn't matter. R0, R1 randomly. B0, B1 equals its input. That's it. Yeah, that's it. So what do I, okay, so fine. So what do I need to show? That this distribution is the same as what happens in the view, what happens in the real view. And to do that, I need to show that a public key generated using, right, so what's the difference between the two? Here, the poor simulator does not have C. Okay, so you can generate either both of the public keys with the Oblivious key generation algorithm or both using the real key generation algorithm. It doesn't know what C is. Yeah? Whereas in the real world, one of these two things is Oblivious and the other one isn't. Yeah? So what do I need to show? I need to show that a random public key sampled from the Oblivious, by the Oblivious algorithm is indistinguishable from a random public key sampled by the real key generation algorithm. That once I show that, these two are the same. And for El Gamal, they are the same. In fact, they are perfectly the same. Proof of indistinguishability. Rests on the following claim, following fact, theorem. If I sample pk from key gen, the distribution of pk is identical to the distribution of pk where I sample first pk and sk from the key generation algorithm and output just pk. Yeah, this is the claim, and this is true for like just inspect, observe. Okay, that's the easy part. But this Oblivious key generation is not an obvious property that comes just for free. Just happens that El Gamal is such a nice scheme. How about for RSA? Yeah, it's a very interesting question, and it's an open question at this point. Okay, so how do I sample a random number which is guaranteed to be a product of two primes without knowing the factorization? Okay. So in other words, I want an algorithm that takes some randomness, right? Does funny things, outputs a number n. I want two properties. One, n is a product of two primes. That's it. And two, even given the randomness I use to sample n, I won't be able to sort of factor n. I won't know the secret. That's what it means to sample n without knowing the secret. Even if I reveal the randomness I use, one way to sample this is that I take randomness, I sample two primes, I multiply them together. That's not fair, because given the randomness, you can recover key and Qs. Okay. This is an open question at this point. So it's not an obvious property. El Gamal happens to satisfy it. All right, so that's the sender simulator. How about the receiver simulator? So this guy gets B, well, C, the input, B sub C, the output. That's okay, doesn't matter. And it's supposed to generate the view of the receiver, which is what? It is supposed to be C, the input, the randomness, which is used in the key generation algorithm, which I have to write down explicitly. Randomness, coins, yeah, and the messages that it receives from the messages that it sends to the sender, you can compute using the input and the coins, so no problem. And then CT0 and CT1 are the messages that it receives from the sender. Okay, so this is what I want to do. Yes?
We can just pick something arbitrary for B1 minus C and then simulate the whole interaction with that.
Excellent, okay. Excellent, excellent. So what is the only thing here that the simulator cannot generate? It can generate CT sub C because it knows B sub C. It's just going to, just honestly encrypt this guy. CT1 minus C, he doesn't know because he doesn't know B1 minus C. Now he says the only thing he does, he says, well, pick B1 minus C at random. It doesn't really matter. 0, okay? I mean, I couldn't care less. Yeah? And now it generates CT0, C as the encryption PK. Well, these guys define PK0 and PK1, right? PK sub C of BC and CT1 minus C. So let me call this B tilde 1 minus C. Just to emphasize that this is not the real bit, B1 minus C, it's what got me now. B tilde 1 minus C, which happens to be 0. So it's just a fancy way of saying just encrypt 0. Okay. And now I want to say this is indistinguishable from the real view. Again, you ask, what is the difference between these two views? The only difference is that in the real view, this is an encryption of some bit. Yeah, so some fixed bit, B, C, which was that for all thing that fixed a bit. Yeah. So see? And in the simulator, it's an encryption of 0. That's only it. And the claim is that it doesn't matter. Okay, so proof of indistinguishability relies on the fact that given R sub 1 minus C, an encryption under PK1 minus C of 0 is indistinguishable from an encryption of 1 under PK1 minus C. So what is R1 minus C? It is a randomness not used in the encryption, but rather in the key generation. Maybe I should actually call this by a different name. S sub C and S sub 1 minus C. Yeah, just to be clear that it's not the randomness for the encryption, it's a randomness for the key generation. Yeah, even given the randomness used for the oblivious key generation, you should not be able, semantic security should hold. You should not be able to break the encryption. And this really is the problem with generating the key using, I'll say setting randomness. Pick 2 primes and then multiply them together. Because given the randomness is used for this process, there is no semantic security. So you truly need to be oblivious. And what does truly need to be oblivious mean? This is what it means. That's the proof. Okay, so let's leave it there. Stare at it for a couple of minutes. Have you asked questions and then we move. Okay, so the proofs are simple so far. They will get more complex as we go along. And I will only sort of sketch them because I'll come to time. But we'll try to do as much as we can. But this is the outline of what you have to do. In fact, you have an oblivious transfer sort of problem in the next problem set. You are asked to prove security. This is the security definition you should use, and the way you should show it is show a simulator, show the indistinguishability proof. And there is one property typically that you would need to use for distinguishing this semantic security or some other property to explicitly sort of identify this property. And say that if someone can distinguish the simulator output from the real view, you break that property by reduction. Right? So this is precisely formally the way to show it. Yeah. Good. Okay. So what? Okay, let's move. You can interrupt me in the middle. Right, this is oblivious transfer. Now we showed how to use oblivious transfer to build a secure AND and secure shared AND, right? I mean, I showed the protocol, I didn't show the proof. I would leave it as an exercise, proving the right? But let's actually use it to sort of build this. Okay. Here's a construction. It's a really rather amazing. With these tools, if you start thinking systematically, this could even be a homework problem. Once you have these tools, I think it's a hard homework problem, but it's a homework problem. But come on, this is in retrospect, right? In retrospect, Gödel's incompleteness theorem is pretty trivial. Okay, but in retrospect, is the yes.
So you mean like indistinguishability implies what's it called?
Simulation, yeah.
You know how to prove it?
Yes, but only for functions, only for finite functions. In the sense, functions with a constant domain is the only one I need to prove. Because somehow the simulator, let's do that. You can do it, but you can do it in general. But the construction of the simulator will run in time proportional to the domain size of the functions. Okay. In what I'm thinking about, but let's do it. But that's why I'm saying constant domain, because then the simulator can enumerate over the entire domain.
Yeah.
Can you say the that part again, the F that is, yeah.
What do you want to do? Say.
I didn't follow this part.
Okay. I'll repeat it again. Okay. One second. But you should think about it. Actually, it's not entirely hard, but you will run into try to do this. You'll run into this issue of the simulator having to run a lot. A lot meaning proportional to the domain size. All right. So good. So we'll get there. Good. So this is what I want to do. So let's get there. Okay. So P1 has X, P2 has Y. They're n-bit inputs. Okay. And they want to compute a function. Let's say for a moment it's a 1-bit output function. It doesn't matter because once you do this, you can do many-bit output just by repeating it like that. Okay, so this is what we want. All right. So I have finite board space. What am I going to do? All right, so let me do this. Okay, so this is the picture that you want to keep in mind. Again, X and Y, and there is a function which is a Boolean circuit, right? Which is essentially, you should think about it as a directed graph, right? Which takes 2 inputs, in degree. So each gate here is a node, which has in degree 2, right? It takes 2 bits, and outputs 1 bit, which is out degree 1. Yeah, and each node is labeled by a gate, which is either XOR or AND gate at this point. And what we know is that this XOR, AND is a complete basis of the space of all Boolean functions. Any Boolean function you want to compute can be computed using XOR and AND. Awesome? Yes, good. Yeah, so this is what I want. So this is what I have. I want to compute this somehow. This is a brilliant idea of Goldreich, McNally, and Victorson. GMW is the name of the protocol. Okay, so this guy has 3 phases. Okay, 2 phases are trivial. One of them is actually where the action happens. Phase 1. Okay, phase 1. These parties are 2 parties. Yeah, so again, our setting is P1 has X, P2 has Y. Phase 1 is the input sharing phase, right? Where these parties, both these parties take their input, each bit of the input, and they secret share it among the 2 parties. Namely, I have X1, and I say, well, let me pick 2 random bits whose exclusive OR is X1. I keep 1 for myself, send 1 to you. So let's sort it down. So this party takes X1 up to Xn, really, right? X1 up to Xn, and this is Y1 up to Yn. And it computes X1, 1 yeah, x1, 2, such that x1, 1 XOR x1, 2 equals x1. Yeah, so the superscripts tell you which party the bit goes to, and the subscript is really which bit it is in the computation. Yeah, it keeps going, right? x2, 1 up to xn, 1, and x2, 2 up to xn, 2. Whose XOR is x. Is x1 of x. So P1 computes this XOR, sends this bit, these n bits to party 2, keeps these guys to himself. P2 does the same thing, right, with Y. So P1 and P2 share, secret share their inputs. So Y1, 1, Y2, 1, etc. up to Yn1, XOR Y1, 2 up to Yn2 should be Y1 up to Yn. Okay, so this is what party 1 has, this is what party 2 has at the end of the day. They have a secret sharing, and 2 out of 2 secret sharing of their inputs. Okay? Set up. Now they compute. They compute in a way that the following invariant is maintained for every wire of the, what is a wire? A wire is an edge of the circuit, right? So it's an input wire or an internal wire or the output wire. For each wire of the circuit, I want to maintain the invariant that the two parties have a secret sharing of the value of the wire during the computation. Okay? So there is an internal, and in the head of the computation going on. Take x and y. No one knows both x and y, but mental experiment. Compute each value, each wire gets a value. In the protocol, I want to maintain the invariant that this value is XOR secret shared between the two parties. Yeah, that's the invariant. That's the key invariant I want to maintain. If I manage to compute maintaining that invariant, what do I get at the end? I get 2 bits whose XOR is the output of the computation. So one of the parties sends the bit to the other party and says, here it is. XOR, and I get the answer. That's phase 3, is the output reconstruction phase. P1 sends output share to P2, and P2 reconstructs. Yeah, that's very simple, right? Now the only thing we have to do is to show how to maintain this invariant as we go on. Yeah, that's it. So that's phase 2. Okay, so we do it from the bottom up, from the input to the output layer. Right? So suppose you have an XOR gate, right? Where the two parties have bits, what do we call it? B, yeah? B is good. B1 and B2 are the wire values. So party 1 has B11, party 2 has B12, so XOR is B1. And similarly, so this is what, wish I had a color chalk. Doesn't matter. This is party, doesn't matter. Yeah, this is party 2. Party 2 shares, this is party 1 shares. I'm going to erase this. And now they want to do something such that, well, they each want to kind of compute, let's say B31, the first party should get B31, the second party should compute, get B32. Such that the XOR is equal to the XOR of B1 and B2. That's the invariant we want to make. Okay. And that's also true for AND. I mean, the thing I drew here, what I want to do is the same for XOR and AND, right? Doesn't matter. How do I do it for XOR? What do I do? XOR 2 bits in the real circuit. Yeah.
You just like XOR the shares.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. Party 1 computes B11 XOR B21. The 1 because party 1 knows both these things and sets this, that defines this to be B31. This means defines this to be B31. Party 2, same thing. Computes B22, sets this to be B3. Now I claim that the invariant is maintained. Why? Because the XOR of these 2 bits is the XOR of these 2 bits, which I can compute as XOR of these 2, XOR of these 2. XOR of these 2 is B1. XOR of these 2 is B2. Yeah, that's it. Makes sense? So invariant maintained because B31 XOR with B32 equals, by definition, this is B11 XOR B21 XOR B12 XOR B22. I'm going to group these two together and group these two together, so I get B11 XOR B12 XOR B21 XOR B22. And observe that the sum of these two values, by the inductive hypothesis, by the fact that the input wires were secret shared, is B1, this guy, and B2, this guy. So that's it. This is the simpler part, of course, right? Okay. Now I want to do the AND. That really is key. XOR is nicely associated with XOR secret sharing. That's why this even worked, right? But AND is not, doesn't play nice with XOR secret sharing. So let's try, okay? So let's try them. I'm going to write this again. So let's use this as scratch space, right? I mean, let's try to think what you need to do. So the parties need to come up with B31 and B32. Yeah, so this is party 1. This is party 2. They need to come up with these bits. And what I want is that this is in fact equal to B1 times B2. Therefore, let's write it down in terms of the shares. So B1, 1 XOR B1, 2 times that. Yeah, right. B21 XOR B2, 2. This is what you want, just by definition. Yeah, I'm expanding B1 into the XOR of the 2 shares, the 1 and the 2 shares. B2, I'm expanding as the XOR of the 1, party 1 and the party 2 shares. That's it. Okay. Now what do I do? Let me, I got my feet, wet up to here. Let me kind of go neck down, okay? Let me expand it. Why not? It's B11, B21. This party 1 can compute because it's both party 1's shares. B1, 2, B2, 2. So again, these are all ANDs, yeah? I'm just expanding it out. This party 2 can compute. if I went there, I'd be good. But that's not good. That's not how mathematics works. B1, 1, B2, 2, XOR B1, 2, B2, 1. Okay. So this is okay, this is okay. So P1 computes. This is P2 computes. And these two, neither one can compute by themselves. That's the issue. That's really the issue. Okay. With this setup, there is precisely one idea that you need to make this move forward. Okay. And that's really that's the brilliance of this setup. So they do the following. They say, well, look, these guys can't compute because I know one thing, you know one thing. Okay? But we know this protocol called secure shared AND, okay? Which says what? That I take a bit from myself, you take a bit for yourself, we run a protocol, at the end of which we get an additive secret sharing of the AND of the two bits. That's what promise. Right? So for this bit, we run a secure shared AND protocol, at the end of which party 1 gets a bit D1, why not? And party 2 gets a bit D12, whose XOR is the AND of the two bits. Yeah, that's so much fun. Let's do it again. Okay. So this is secure shared AND, and again here parties get D21 XOR D22. This is equal to B12 and B21. Okay, this is the guarantee. This is the correctness guarantee of And now party 1 says, very good, I computed B11, B21 myself, right? And I'm going to XOR it with D11 and D21 that I got from the secure shared AND group. Party 2 says, let me do B12, B22, which I computed by myself, XOR D12, XOR D2. And I claim victory at this point. Okay, so I define this to be B31, and I define this to be B32. Why is this correct? Because if you take the sum of these two values, you get back precisely. Going up that chain of calculations, you get precisely the answer. That's it. You're done. Okay. That's it. So this says, you know, that given a secret sharing of the two bits of the input bits to any gate, I can construct an additive secret sharing of the output bit of that gate. So you keep going this way. At the end, you get the XOR sharing of f of xy. And one of the parties sends the share to the other party. Yes?
I think we need a negative A. Like if given A and B, we want to calculate
you don't have to.
A or B.
You don't have to. Because XOR gives you a negative.
How to calculate A or B, like A and B are single bit, when you only have X or Y and
A or B?
Yeah.
You can write it in terms of and nots, yes?
Yeah, but that's not a definition. You can only use X or Y.
You can write not as a function of XOR.
But that's not a function of
It is.
2 bit.
Oh,
You have
yeah.
to add
I think
one.
OR equals XOR N. XOR N.
You know what? Figure it out, okay? This is you can write everything in terms of these two gates. Figure it out. It's homework for you, okay? I'm not going to do it. Yeah, that's it. Sure. Okay, so XOR is what? I mean, so NOT is what? NOT of A is 1 XOR A. That's it. You're saying 1 is a constant bit. It doesn't matter. You know, augment the...
more bits, right?
One more bit.
One more bit.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, fine. So be it. I mean, that's the least of our problems in some sense. Yeah?
So just to
But good,
confirm,
okay, good, very good.
the invariant here is not just that, okay, the wires have to, like the two shared things have to XOR the other thing, but they also still have to be random at each step.
Good. So for functionality, I don't care about randomness. To get correctness, functionality, correctness, who cares?
Yeah.
But for security, I do care about randomness, and that, yeah?
Yeah.
Very good, okay. So that looks good in a second. There. All right, so functionality, yes, you're all comfortable. Now you have to do the augment by one more bit, and so that bit is always 1. Like in fact, both parties don't need to do it, only one party needs to do it, right, basically. So the point is that, you know what I mean, okay, so I'm not going to dwell on. Why is it secure? Here's the question. All right. And how do I prove security? Right? I mean, how do I prove security of two-party computation? What do you think? Show a simulator. Okay. Very first thing I need to do. Okay. In fact, two simulators, one for Alice and one for party 1 and one for party 2. I'll just show the simulator for party 1. The other one follows maybe. So simulator for party 1. I have to say what I have to define what view of party 1 is, and I have to know what I'm trying to simulate. Wow, then there's a lot here, yeah? So what is the view of party 1? It's its input, X, sure. The coins, which are basically, where does it use the coins? It uses the coins to share in the very beginning. It uses the coins inside the AND protocol. Right. That's it. That's those are. So coins for sharing X, coins for AND. These are all the coins. And then the messages, right? So what are the messages? The messages are, well, first of all, the shares. Y1 up to yn1, and the messages in the AND protocol, yes, and the share of the output that output share. So let me call this, give it a name. So let's say the output bit is shares are P out 1 and P out, just a name. Okay, so the out is the value at the output wire, which is supposed to be f of xy, and 1 and 2 are the shares. So this is what happens. You know what, let me make my life a little harder, okay? It doesn't really matter. Okay, so I'm saying P1 is the one that gets the output. Could be either way. So P1 could send output share to P2. I'm running a simulator for P1, right? Let me make my life harder. Let me make P1 get more information, and still I'll try to of show stuff. Okay, so that's why P2 sends the output share to P1. P out 2 to P1. This is it. Yeah, this is the thing. And I want to simulate it. Okay, so we won't write the whole simulator, you know, just like I won't write the whole code if I want to write an operating system, you know, like a monolithic code. Simulator is a program, yes? I mean, I won't write a monolithic program. I'll use the simulator for the OT as a black box. I'll call the simulator for the OT. In fact, I'll call the simulator for the shared AND, for the secure shared AND. That's actually the obvious thing to do, which I haven't constructed yet. I mean, I only constructed a simulator for OT. Yeah, I haven't constructed. But I'll use it and I'll show how to construct this, how to simulate. Okay. All right, okay, so let's get started. So there's a lot going on here, right? X, no problem. I have it. Right? The simulator has X, and what does it have? It has X and it has F of X. Yeah, as the input and the output. Okay, so I'll run through it. Maybe. Okay, fine. So coins for sharing X, no problem. Coins for AND. The simulator for the secure shared AND, what does it do? It takes as input 2 bits, right? Rather, it takes as input sort of 1 bit, one of the party's bits, and the output bit, which is supposed to be a sharing, a random secret sharing of the output of the AND of the 2 bits, and it generates the coins and the. So what I'm going to do is coins for X, generate coins for X. Coins for AND, and the output share of AND is generated by running the secure AND simulator. Shared AND simulator, which is supposed to get as input the share, the input share. There's no way I can do a reasonable job of this. You know what? We will try to sort of pick it up next week. It's going to be tricky. But if not, I'll post notes. Okay. Already 3 minutes over. And roughly speaking, what you do is you try to sort of use the box that simulates the AND protocol, come up with a simulator. You know, the simulator will need to use the all the information that he gets. Both X is obvious, but it also needs to use F X bar, and you'll see it when you try it. Okay, very good. So the next 3 lectures are going to be guest lectures, which is why I said it's tricky to continue this. You will see again.